Well, we wanted to take a few minutes to talk today about one of my dad's good friends, a partner in the gospel, a fellow dreamer, a worshiper, Kevin Darby, and a man that I also personally respect so much. Growing up in church, watching Dad and Kevin lead us in some incredible, memorable worship experiences. Dad, tell us, where all have you served with your friend Kevin over the years?
Well, he served with me in the Triangle Church. He led our worship there, our music. He served with me in the Athens Church, Athens, Georgia, and in Palm Beach, Florida. He did an amazing job in all three of them. Incredibly blessed our church, helped us to sing, helped us to draw close to God, and helped even draw people outside of our community to come to church.
One of the big projects that I remember you guys working on was when you were writing your book, Be Still My Soul. Simultaneously, Kevin released that worship album, also called Be Still My Soul.
Based on a song, yes.
Yeah, I just remember those worship songs.
Yeah.
They were so powerful. Tell us a little bit.
He did a great job. He created a whole album on that, and based on Be Still My Soul, and the song Be Still My Soul was fabulous. He sang it, but had the group behind him, and he did a wonderful job on it. And he did quite a few other songs in that album too. He did a song, Precious Lord, that's one of my favorites of all times, and he had that sung by another brother. Yeah. And then he wrote a song in there, a couple of songs. One's called Create in Me a Pure Heart, based on Psalm 51, verses 10 through 14 on God. Change my heart, help me to grow. And then he wrote one called A Criminal Son, based on the guy who died alongside of Jesus. He created those songs, and he did a wonderful job. He not only sang some himself, he had women sing, he had men sing, and then he had the group of men sing and the group of women sing. It was fabulous. That's what he did. He raised up other leaders, other people to sing.
I remember even as a teenager at that time, when those songs, when Kevin was taking a lot of these old hymns and rearranging them, and they would be performed on Sundays, usually around the communion service. And I just remember being so moved as a young disciple. The worship services that you and Kevin were putting together, and the way it moved my heart. As a young teenage boy, I was moved often to tears. So powerful. And it became such an important part of the church.
Worship is supposed to, and singing is supposed to move our hearts as churches, and I encourage you, Kevin can help you with that tremendously.
I also remember the Christmas show. Kevin helped to produce, and you were heavily involved. That was powerful.
We had it on a nighttime right before Christmas, and huge number of visitors came, and then they would come and visit our church afterwards. But he did a tremendous job on those songs.
I remember over the years, the show kind of kept growing and expanding.
Yes.
To the point where we were doing it multiple nights throughout the month of December.
Many nights.
And it was winning awards in the community.
Yes,
people were coming, and people were so moved. And then they would come to church.
Yes, they did.
Saying, man, who are these people?
Yeah, it got people to come who would have never come otherwise. It was amazing how it reached out to people.
Yeah, so just powerful music.
He did a great job.
So much joy. Dad, as far as what Kevin brings to the table for a church, what are some of the things you feel like he offers for congregations?
Well, he brings songs that are older songs, but he does a great job of them and makes them alive and gets a group to sing, help lead us in them, and get the whole church singing them. He selected great songs to sing and led them in a wonderful way.
Yeah.
He not only led them himself, he would get us all to sing.
How do you feel like working with Kevin over the years has strengthened the churches that you were leading?
It got them all to worship God and to enjoy worshiping God, to rejoice in worshiping God, to have fun worshiping God, and it was just wonderful.
Yeah. What about through the worship ministry, the way you guys were able to raise up people, leaders, song leaders, use people's talents?
Yes, it drew people to use their talent in singing and worshiping that had not been used before. It raised people up, and then they helped raise up the whole church to sing, but they were helped leading the church. He raised up great people.
Yeah, so many different brothers and
Yes.
sisters from all different backgrounds,
They-
young, old, black, white, so many people that you and Kevin were able to
Yes.
identify throughout the church and pull
Yes.
them up and uncover their gifts. What about, how do you feel like working with Kevin on worship, how has it helped your churches with outreach and evangelism?
It caused people to want to invite people to come to church to hear the worship and singing, but when people came and heard it, it made them want to come back and drew them closer to God.
Yeah, I remember I was a teenager, maybe I was a new disciple up in the Triangle Church in North Carolina, and we were having a devotional one night, some teens and I don't know, it was a group of folks, and we were having a little devo, and the question was asked to the group, does anybody have any talents that they feel like they'd like to use for the church that maybe they haven't been using? And people were sharing, and I remember this one sister, she spoke up, she was a little quiet, and she said, well, you know, I enjoy singing. I like to sing.
Yeah.
And that was Bev Kane. And I remember, Beverly Kane, I remember it was just a couple years later, I was sitting in church, it was communion, and Kevin starts playing his keyboard, and he started playing these chords, and it was this gospel, kind of a old-timey gospel feel. And then Bev Kane starts singing into the microphone. At this point, the church had grown. There was probably 1,000 people in the room. And Bev begins to sing. And she sings, "Blessed Assurance, Jesus is mine."
Jesus.
And she began to sing, and Kevin had rearranged this hymn, and Bev sang, and then the choir joined in, and then the church joined in singing. And by the end of this song, you know, under Kevin's leadership and Bev's singing, the church was worshiping, and it was so powerful. Bev was, I mean, she was peeling the paint off the walls. She was singing her heart out. It was powerful and beautiful, and I'll never forget that. And that song ended up on that Be Still My Soul album.
Yeah. Yes.
And I always thought that's such a great example of what worship can do for an individual and for the whole church.
Well, see, he drew people out to use their talent that God had given them that hadn't been used yet. He drew them out. And God gives us all different kinds of talents, but he drew out the ones who could sing.
Yeah.
And it helped us all as a church to worship.
Yes. Yes. I miss some of those moments. Those were some glorious moments of
He
worship.
tremendously, yes. I have one of his albums, and I listen to it, and it inspires me all the time, and makes me wish I was still back with him.
Yeah. Well, we love you, Kevin,
Yes.
and we hope that Kevin is able to bless and encourage many other
He
congregations.
will help your church. Help your church.